You may hear grandchildren in the background, my husband on the tractor, or the children playing with the dogs. As a matter of fact, you may hear lots of things in the background today. It's hard to say. Um, we're going to be talking about thyroid health and how that kind of works with like everything. And I am so excited about our guest that I have today. Thank you so much for joining me.
I appreciate that. I'm Annalisa Kinch, and I'm excited not only to talk about thyroid, but just talk about little lifestyle things and habits that we can put in place that help us overall. And I've loved listening to your podcast and just watching some of your YouTube videos and just getting back to who we need to be as a woman, as a mother, and in your case, a grandmother. I'm not there yet. I have 3 children. An older one, she's an architect, working. She is out of the home. I have a second child, my son, who has a fast mind. He's working, but he still lives with us. And my youngest daughter, who's 18, who just went to university this year. So it's like, she's the baby of the family.
Yes.
The baby and they go. It's like,
Yeah. Our baby is 16. And we've homeschooled all of them. So she's still home, though I don't see her a lot because she just kind of works on her school herself. And then she's already starting her own little art business and stuff. So it's so amazing to see them blossom and grow and move into their own thing. But keeping up with it all is hard.
Yeah, agreed. And doing homeschooling is amazing. We, with our second son, had to do a lot of that because he had some bullying in high school, and that brought him home. And we went through a very traumatic time with him, not knowing whether he would be with us today. So I'm grateful for being able to homeschool him, being able to have a mentor who we work with a doctor, George. He doesn't practice in the traditional sense of psychology of you come to him and he takes your money and wants to be able to have you pay long term all the time and never solve the problem. His goal is, and he works with an organization called Freedom Village, which helps troubled teens. And so he walked us through a process to help our son to be able to be the man he is today. He goes to work in a manufacturing facility. He does his own laundry. Yay!
Yay!
Right? Like the little things that we as mothers want to teach them, right? To be able to do on their own. I remember first starting out with a list on the door of, do you have your keys, your lunch, your badge, like all the things that he needed.
I feel like I need that list sometimes today. I'm absolutely convinced that with each child, they suck the brains out of you during pregnancy.
That's I got a statement for that. Literally, it's somewhat true, actually.
Really?
Yeah. Well, in the terms of thyroid. So when you say that, when I had my third child, and actually if you have an underproducing thyroid, a lot of times you can use the thyroid of your children while they're in pregnancy. And
that's why I felt better while I was pregnant.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then you give birth. And then in my case, with my third child, I gave birth to her and then went through an incredible depression. And I watched a video where you talked about going through depression and having things and realizing, no, I got a great husband. I got lovely kids. How can I all of a sudden be going through depression? What is
my
depression?
Doctor is so patient with me, and I am so blessed with him.
So with my third child, I went through that depression. I gained like stubborn weight. I couldn't get rid of it. Like I was actually gained more than I was when I was pregnant. I went through nights where I just had to sit in a chair because I had indigestion so bad. I couldn't function, and I'd be up at 4 a.m. I'd be throwing up. I passed out a few times. I'd sit in the chair. I would be, because I couldn't lie down. Otherwise, I felt like I was going to be sick again. And so all these conditions, it took me 10 years to get answers. And through that process, I also, my mother-in-law had dementia, so I became a caregiver. I left full-time consulting and came home to look after her. And we had her for 6 years. And through that process, as a caregiver, you're a giver, caregiver in a sense for your
It's
grandchildren.
huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
While I was still having babies, my father-in-law went through dementia, and
Mm,
we had him right next door to us here on our little farm. And so yeah, we cared for him at home for 10 years. And then he did finally have to go to the nursing home. He just did not want me to care for him, and
yes.
it was really hard for me to let go, but it was the best thing for him and what he wanted. And
Yeah.
we have a lovely facility not far from us, and they would call anytime anything happened, and I would just, I had been care for him so long, I would just say, okay, check this and this and this and this, and we'd go through the things. But yeah, and then I had cesareans with each one of them, so that's a whole nother thing.
Yes.
uh,
Recovery.
there is uh, a family history of low thyroid. Uh,
Mm,
but the thyroid test, the basic thyroid test, was
mhm.
always on the low end of normal. Everything was on the low end of normal. And I sat there with my doctor at one point and I said, how many things have to be on the low end of normal before things aren't normal? I don't
Yeah.
feel normal.
Agreed.
And I realized that I never had. I think, there were probably, my mother was a teenager when she was pregnant with me and things like that. So there were probably some birth defects, some family history issues. And I've recently found out I have systemic lupus, which I've probably had all this time as well. And
Yes.
that works in with the thyroid. I
Yes.
mean, it all works together.
Yeah, correct. Both. So what usually happens is normally it takes to get a thyroid diagnosis or some issues with our thyroid 10 years before you get a diagnosis from the medical system. There are things you can do in a more naturopathic, or what I work with is functional medicine doctors. They test a whole list of other tests, particularly antibodies. We can have antibodies in the first 2, 3 years of having issues with the thyroid. And antibodies are where you become more in an autoimmune standpoint, where your
Yeah,
body attacks your thyroid. But what
that's
we
where
know,
we finally found things. Yes.
yes. So what we know now, though, is if you have one, so if you're autoimmune to thyroid, you're likely to have two or three. And
Yes.
if you don't reverse or at least put things in remission, you're now prone to many after many after many. So it's really critical to focus on doing some key things. And a lot of it is really just lifestyle changes that we do for our body that put us in that remission state.
Well, and I've come out to the conclusion at this point that we don't need to wait for a diagnosis to make lifestyle changes. As a
Yes.
matter of fact, waiting a day can just compound the problem and make it worse. Like you said, then you
Yeah.
have multiple. I've told both of my doctors, I told him several years ago, I do not want a fibromyalgia diagnosis because there's nothing that he can do for me that
Yeah.
would help me that I would be willing to try. And so whenever I went to the specialist, I told her the same thing. I said, I
Yes.
do not want a fibromyalgia diagnosis. So she calls it the F word. I'm pretty sure she put it in my file. And she checks me out and everything. And yeah, she just didn't tell me all of the things that she wanted to, diagnose me with. Uh, but it's worked out. But when Paul and I first got married, and
Yes.
I was raised with a lot of abuse and neglect.
Yes.
And when we first, even before we got married, he took me to the chiropractor. And that it was a chiropractor that did do a lot of tests and stuff. And he brought me in and did a glucose tolerance test, like
Awesome.
the really long one. And
Yes.
he said, you are severely hypoglycemic.
Yes.
And I am. I can pass out easily.
Mhm.
So it got me on a diet for that, started making huge improvements. And it's like just every step of the way, the more I learned, you know, the better I felt. And even with this, the last year was kind of hard coming up to that diagnosis.
Yes.
But I feel better at 50 than I
Yes.
felt at 20. you
Yes,
know?
agreed. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you. I feel like I lost 10 years in the time of kind of not knowing what I had, being told it was in my head, and there was nothing wrong with me because none of my tests showed anything that they were actually measuring.
Oh, you're a hypochondriac.
Correct, because
Yeah.
when the thyroid isn't working, all your body systems aren't working. You can't make energy, and there's so many components, right? You have your organs in your brain, your if you've ever heard of the hypothalamus, pituitary,
Yes,
adrenal
yes.
connections, and your thyroid or HPA axis, that all communicates. And when those communications break down, we don't produce. And a lot of times, your doctor will measure your TSH, which is a hormone that
Right.
isn't even an active thyroid hormone. So you're not even measuring T3, which is active. That's what's working in your body to go in. And if your cells, if you're dealing with insulin resistance and your cells are not even accepting, the receptor is not accepting that T3 to go into the cell to act, to give you the energy, that's why we feel so fatigued. There's so many steps in the process. Even your liver, a lot of people think the thyroid produces the active thyroid hormone. No, your liver does. So if your liver isn't working, it can't produce the
Isn't that
thyroid hormone.
amazing? That
Yeah.
is amazing. I loved finding your information on LinkedIn. If you can find her on LinkedIn, please look her up. She's got excellent information. I was so excited. I've got to have her on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited. Well, let me give you a few things that you can do lifestyle wise. I think you've started
Perfect.
on your path. And I
Perfect.
think, for me, I was researching and trying to find stuff. And I spent 3 years, I read 500 books trying to find answers. And then I came across a functional medicine team who'd put together a program of just simple lifestyle tips and changes that if we can implement them, we can see changes in 6 weeks.
Oh,
Right. And I
awesome.
spent 13 years trying to find it. I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
exactly. I've
if
been
I had known,
experimenting
you
on
know what I
myself
could
all
do.
these years.
It's like,
Yeah.
crap. So what I say is EMS your life. Think about it. You go through this EMS situation, right? You go to the doctor, or in my case, I went to hospital. My husband thought I had died. I was sitting on the chair. I was completely out. He couldn't revive me. And I went to hospital and they said, oh, I think you have what's the bowel, irritable bowel. Oh,
Oh,
and that's why I passed out. Okay. Like it was just like, and that was the answer. Okay, you can go home. You're fine. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, you have these emergencies and things that happen, but if you can EMS your life, if you can eat, move, sleep, reduce your stress, right? EMS meaning eat, move, sleep, stress. If you can change those lifestyle things, you can affect how you feel every day. You can balance your hormones, you can get your energy back. And for me, I spent 13 years trying to find how to lose weight and keep it off. Because that's
right.
the issue, right? We do this yo-yo thing, and that's stressful
Uh-huh.
on the body and our
Yeah.
mind, right? We're
Yeah.
constantly thinking, oh my gosh, everything you pick up to eat, it's like, should I eat it? Should I not eat it? Where should I go? So
Yeah.
here's one of the first three key things from an eat perspective is 5 C's for digestion. Because if we can eat something, but if we can't absorb it or we can't get it into our body and digest it properly, then we're
Right.
lacking in vitamins and minerals, which are key for all of our thyroid hormones and things to perform, right? Our body
Yes.
can't function without them. So 5 C's would be choose, chew, chill, cherish, and check. So choose the right foods. If you are autoimmune, I'm sorry to say, a lot of the research points to going gluten-free. So,
I don't want to
dairy-free.
hear that.
I know I
I
didn't.
know.
Look, I avoided it for a long time. I did.
Yeah.
But when I
Yeah.
went gluten-free, and again, it's going for a period of time to give your body rest from things that might be aggravating you, to get the immune system to settle.
Right.
Because we know that there's in gluten, there's something called gliadin, and that gliadin looks like a thyroid cell. And if we're autoimmune to that gliadin that gets through the gut wall, then our immune system goes on autoimmune, right? Things that shouldn't get in are getting in, and then it starts attacking that, and then it goes, oh my gosh, your thyroid cell looks like gliadin. Okay, I'm the immune system. I'm going to go attack the thyroid. And now we have nodules and things, and that's the breakdown of our thyroid. So when I heard that, I thought, do I really have to give it up? Let me try and see how I feel. Well, I went off for a period of time. And then when I started taking it back in, I was like exhausted, almost within a short period of time, the fatigue came back. It was like night and day. So I thought, okay, I'll go off it for a long time. I've been off for 3 years now, and I feel amazing. I have energy all day. It's such a different feeling of just doing that. So just choosing the right foods. Look up autoimmune paleo or any kind of autoimmune kind of food recommendations, and just eliminate those for a little while and see how you feel. I
See how it,
know, and I guess in your mind, you have to say it's just for a little while.
my
It could be
favorite,
forever, but it's
yeah, my favorite diet that I keep going back to, I'm trying to remember what the book is called, The Maker's Diet.
okay. Yep.
And I just love that one. They don't necessarily suggest it forever. It's just a
Sure.
good, basic, but it's just kind of going back to more of a natural, the way God produced it in
Yes.
the first place,
Yes.
and getting away from the process. The more processed it is, probably the less your body's going to be able to handle it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's correct. Because we weren't made to eat processed foods. There's nothing in
Yeah.
it. There's no vitamins, minerals. It's just crap. If you read a label and it's got 50 million things on there and you can't pronounce half of them, then those are not meant for you to eat, right? So I always
Yes,
say focus
exactly.
on one ingredient foods, right? And I like to
Mhm.
think about batch cooking as another way to think about how you do it. Or I use a lot of frozen foods, like because they're already broccoli frozen, buy from Costco. It's already contained, it's organic. It's already cut up in pieces. It takes a couple of minutes to throw in the water and or just steam it, whichever way you want to make it. And then it's easy to cook. And then I'm not thinking, oh my gosh, I gotta wash the broccoli, I gotta cut it, then
Got
I
to
gotta
do all the things. Right,
yeah, and
right,
all the things that you got to do, and then you don't do it. Right? I
right,
went through that for a long time. Oh, it's too hard.
right,
But
right,
if you
right.
batch cook, I cook what I cook for dinner, we have for lunch the next day.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it just makes it so much more simpler to ensure that I'm going to
We
eat.
did that with supper last night. We
Mhm.
took supper for both days.
Right.
And yeah, and
It
it
makes it
just
so much
makes life so
easier.
much easier. Yes.
Yeah, it's just quicker, and that helps reduce our stress. But the other thing, and I know this is probably something that you're very familiar with because you farm, is finding local farmers and local fruits. My husband met a lady. He we needed additional income, so he joined a company called Jiffy. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's a
Mhm.
handyman service.
Yeah,
And you can just call up and he builds decks and things for people, which is amazing.
that's
And
fun.
he was out building a deck for a lady, and one of the renters at the house came out and just started talking to him. And it was like a God destined thing that happened because she was part of a community of that were seeking out local farmers and ways to get good food and good products outside the system of grocery, so that we had
Yes.
a source. And we had been talking about it. We've been gardening and we've been talking about how do we get into something like that, and boom, there she was. And so she
There
had
she was.
yeah.
Oh, that is wonderful. I work on the other end of it, trying to get the farmers to sell directly to the consumers instead of going through the markets, because
Right.
the markets in America honestly are just killing the farmers and ranchers, the producers.
Yes.
And they can make so much more money, and then the consumers can get it so much cheaper in the
Yes.
process. I mean, it's good for
Yes.
everybody both ways. And trying to say, hey, you guys can do this. I know it's easier just to take the cattle to the sale and sell them, but you're getting market prices whenever you do
Mm.
that. A little bit of extra work on your end, and you can make so much more money, and then see local people in their lives and how much they appreciate what you're doing, because
Yeah.
the market doesn't show appreciation for what they're doing.
Yeah. Agreed.
So yeah.
We had, so they found a farmer in I don't know, about 2 hours away from us, who he was farming. In Canada, we have for organic farming, you have to get a license to say that you're organic. It costs you
Yes.
$10,000 as a farmer.
It's a big deal down here too.
Right.
Yes.
So
Yes.
for this is a Mennonite farmer, and he didn't want to pay the 10,000, so he lost um, uh, companies that were purchasing his product. And I tell you, the peppers are like, they're like hearts. They're so
Oh,
big.
wow. Oh,
Amazing.
wow.
His garlic is like, you know, baseball size. It's unbelievable. Just
Yeah, I've tried to tell people out here it's really hard for the farmers because all your neighbors have to get in on it too.
that's
If
right.
somebody is using GMOs close to you, then you can't get in on that.
That's
But
correct.
that doesn't mean that your crops are bad.
That's right.
So if local people know what you're doing with your farm, they can appreciate what you've got there without you having to be certified organic.
That's
Yeah.
correct. So
So
what
that's
we've
awesome.
done, we've communicated with him, the leader of our community communicated with him, and she has coordinated a spreadsheet we're going to order. And he, in the process of having to give up or losing some of those companies, he last year, a third of his farm was fallow. He couldn't farm that because he didn't have anybody to purchase. So now that third of the farm is going to be for us. And we're going to be, as a community, be able to purchase ahead. So he was asking seeds. So we just had a community event. He came with his son, and everybody loved on him and just made him feel so special for what he's doing for us.
Oh,
Yet we're doing
perfect.
for him, right? It's such a give, amazing, just an amazing experience
Ah, I
to
love it.
support someone and a family, right? That's what we're all
Yes.
about, is families and giving, right? It's amazing.
Yes.
So on that, second thing would be movement. So what do we do for movement? We just move all day. That's the one thing that we know. Sitting is the new smoking. So getting up and moving and doing something. And I say, after your meals, if you can just take a 10-minute walk, it will change how your insulin behaves in your body.
Right. Well, and you don't need fancy exercise machines. You don't need a gym membership. Scrubbing, cleaning, washing dishes, all these different things are that's movement. That's how great grandma stayed thin.
Yeah.
She did a lot. She was doing a lot of different things. And if you're working outside of the home, during those breaks when somebody else would be having a smoke break, take a
Yes.
walk break.
Yes.
I used to get up. I had a full-time job for 3 years, and I would get up and just walk around the office. We had a large space, and I would just kind of walk around the office real fast and just go back and forth around and just get that exercise. And then anytime that I could walk somewhere, I would do that and just get up and move.
Agreed. And dance. We have a dancing doctor, and she does on Facebook every morning. She does 10 minutes, and you just get up, put on great.
Just get up and do
You're
things. I
cleaning.
love it.
Yeah, if you're cleaning and you're doing it, and you feel great, right?
Yes,
You just
yes.
feel good after you
Our
do it. It's so
publisher
much
at the
fun.
newspaper, she loved to dance too, and we would get up and turn on the music and get up and dance in between
Yeah.
customers. So I love
My
it.
mom used to do that with the kids all the time. I think that's why my son now, everybody says he's such a great dancer, because my family is from the Caribbean.
Ah,
Originally. So my mom was born in Barbados, my dad in Guyana, and then I was born in Trinidad, and then they came to Canada. So we all have that island music in us.
uh,
So good to
yeah,
just dance
love
and
it.
do things and just find joyful movement, something you love to do that can
Yeah.
give you joy in your day, and tie it to something you're already doing so that it becomes a habit that you
Yes.
incorporate it
Yes.
in your life.
I tend to dance while I'm folding laundry.
Yay!
That's my big dancing thing is while I'm folding laundry. People will come over and visit and I'll be folding laundry and dancing and they just get the biggest kick out of it. And it's like,
Well,
it's
you
just,
made their day.
yeah,
You made their day. That's
yeah,
even better, right? Not only your day, you're helping them release those endorphins, right? The feel good
yes.
stuff, which
Yeah.
is really important. So the third thing I would talk about is sleep. Sleep is the number one most important thing that you need to take care of. And if you're not either waking up at night to go pee, try mouth taping, because mouth taping will help keep the cortisol down so you don't wake up during the night to actually go pee.
So what is that? That's
Mouth
something.
taping. Yeah, so mouth taping for people who have sleep apnea or breathe through their mouth a lot while they sleep, that puts you in, I don't know if you understand the fight or flight response or the
Yes.
rest and digest. In order to sleep properly, we need to be in that rest and digest state. So mouth taping is something that you can just Google. You're going to use my daughter used Scotch tape. I didn't tell her what to use properly. Don't use Scotch tape. That's not a good thing. But there's surgical tape you can use that you just put just a
Like a
little bit
little
in the middle.
butterfly band-aid
Yeah.
or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would use it's called non-surgical tape. It's less sticky.
Oh, okay.
And it's more like the
Okay.
white tape that you would use.
Okay.
And you just put a little bit down the middle. Some people are claustrophobic. So by doing the whole mouth, that freaks people out. So
Right.
just a little bit down the middle, and it keeps your mouth closed. It's the same thing with I find for stress throughout the day. I used to be allergic. Well, not used to. I am allergic to milk or dairy. And I found my nose was plugged all the time. So I would breathe through my mouth. So my whole day was being in that fight or flight response just from breathing. So it's
Okay.
like seeing a lion, right? A lion
Right.
all
Right.
day, and your body is constantly in that
I've
state.
got these big lips and they do not like to be together. It's,
Yes,
it's
I
a
have that
constant.
problem. I tend
Yeah.
to I use Ricolas, like just not sweeties, but just things that I suck on that cause me to
Yeah.
keep my mouth closed
I do cough
consciously.
drops. Yeah.
Yeah, but just to
Yeah.
consciously focus my mind on closing my mouth. So I'm more in that space of um, focusing on less stress and being in that is moving from that fight or flight to rest and digest, because rest and digest is when we restore our body. That's when we can lose weight. That's when we can heal. That's when our liver can relax and our immune system can calm. If we can get to that place, and sometimes for stress, that's saying no, right? If we sometimes we take on too much, we do too many things, and we have to find time for self-care each day, because that keeps us grounded. So whether
Right.
it's walking in nature, with your shoes off, although it's winter right now, that's a little bit hard to do. Doing hot cold therapy in the morning when you take a shower, just getting that cold water on you to be able to reset the thyroid and the immune system. Because when we do hot and cold, it's a stress, but it's a good stress on our
See,
body.
I knew that there was something to that, and
Mhm.
somebody had told me, and I'm like, okay, I'll try it. I hate cold. I hate cold,
So do I.
but I'll get in there, take my nice hot shower, but then I'll turn the hot water off and then I'll rinse in the cold water before I get out. And it does something. It is helpful, and you would think, but it's kind of odd how some of that works.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely. And so the other thing I would talk about too is toxins. So you would know that from farming, making sure that you're not putting, the food that you're eating. There's a great, the environmental working group every year puts out the Dirty Dozen. Try and buy those Dirty Dozen organic. Because when we buy those dirty dozen, that's less toxins we're putting in our body. And we are so subjected today to 200 to 300, or thousands of toxins. They did babies' cord blood. And even babies just being born today are being born with 200 toxins that they're finding in their cord blood.
I am
Like,
not surprised.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
the environment that we're in. So
Yeah.
what are some things that you can do to support your liver? Greens, eating your greens are so good for your liver, to just support it, to help it to be able to get rid of those toxins from our body.
Yes. 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 The fruits and vegetables, the more color you get, the better it is. Just the
Yes.
more color you get. I'm a midwife as well. And whenever someone calls me about wanting to become pregnant, I always tell them, and this isn't medical advice or anything like that.
Yeah,
So
agree.
disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. But I always tell them, go on a vegetarian diet for 6 weeks and then call me.
Yep.
And every single time they'll call and say that they're expecting.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Yes. So, I mean, I'm not going to say that that's going to work for everyone,
Sure.
but there's so many things that can be going on there. And sometimes just saying, okay, I'm going to try this, and then relaxing and letting it work, and then cleaning your body out with those fresh fruits and vegetables. It's amazing.
Yeah,
So,
from that standpoint too, you're eating one ingredient foods, right? You're getting
yes,
rid of the processed
exactly.
food by focusing in on those vegetarian. And taking your
Exactly.
B supplements would be key if you're going to do vegetarian, because a lot of times if you can't out of your meat, We get a lot of our B vitamins, but vegetarian, it's
Yes.
still harder to get your Bs. So it's also,
Right. Right. Right.
and the last thing I
This,
would say is community.
yes,
Community. That's why I was so excited to talk to you. And I shared the story of the community we belong to. Find a like-minded community. If you, I don't,
definitely.
have you ever heard of Blue Zones?
No, I haven't.
You got to read the Blue Zones book. He talks about, he went to Blue Zones, are areas of people who are centenarians who've lived or have the largest number of centenarians, people who've lived over 100. And he studied, what did they do? And a lot of it was to do with community. And we have suffered so much.
Oh,
Talked about the
Facebook
mental
has not
health.
done us well, has it?
Yeah.
It's ruined our communities. I'll make sure and have a link to that book in the description. That is wonderful. I am so excited about this information. Where can people find you to get more information?
Okay, I'm one of the best ways. I have a morning routine. It's called, it would be the www.thyroidreset.ca. If you go to that, the morning routine will be there. You can download that, and that will give you some key tips to set up your morning to have a great day. But not only that, to help you sleep better overnight.
Okay, wonderful. So definitely thyroidreset.ca.
Yeah, that would
Wonderful.
be.
And I'll have that link in the description as well. So you can find Annalise. I love this. This has been so wonderful. Thank you for joining me.
I'm so
I
excited to learn from you. I love going through all your podcasts and listening, and just we need to get back to kind of, as you say, living more simply, right?
yes.
Organizing. I spent a lot of time through COVID just organizing and getting rid of stuff, because
Yeah.
there was the other person, I would say, the minimal mom. I don't know if you've ever listened to any of her things. She's a great Christian, and she talks about your house as your SKUs, like a Walmart. And the number of SKUs you have to manage makes it harder for you to manage
That
everything.
is so true. That is so true. It so many, we can get cluttered up in our mind and in our home and so many things. And yeah, we need to simplify everything. Well, if you haven't subscribed to the magazine yet, the magazine is out. You could go to prairiedusttrail.com right there at the top. We've got the magazine, and I'm hearing lots of good things. People are really appreciating it. And we're already getting started on the next quarterly magazine to get it out. And we're going to have just so much information, so many great collaborators coming together for this publication. So thank you so much for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And thank you, Annalisa, for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Danita. Appreciate the time.